fellow TechMasters, welcome guests, and Speechcrafters. Welcome to our Tuesday meeting. We're going to start off the meeting by introducing our club president, Vince Bollinger. Okay. Sir?
Thank you. Alrighty. If you could please rise, and if you care to do so, please join me in reciting the national anthem and saluting our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. See, today's timer, I'm trying to remember who that was. Anybody remember who the timer is today? Yeah. Who doesn't have a role? Brent.
I don't have a role.
Great.
I will be timer.
Why don't you be the timer today? And as such, since I know you're really good at making these up off the top of your head, could you please give us an opening invocation?
Thank you, Mr. President. Most people fail in life because they major in minor things. Thank you.
All right, we have previous meetings, but as I was mentioning earlier, for some odd reason, this useless piece of garbage computer cannot connect to the internet. So while Will did send it to us, now I have it right there. Does anybody else have that email? Maybe they can read it.
I can read it.
Great. I'm going to sit here and buy time. It's going to sound like I'm saying something and making actually some kind of point. I'm even going to look over at this side of the room where there's nobody and act like I'm actually connecting with people. What I'm really doing is just buying time for Clea to be able to read us the minutes. Oh, Clea, thank you.
Well, here we go. So the meeting minutes from last week, we started at 7:43. We had two guests, Tim Nelson and David Rasmussen. The roles were Toastmaster Vince, timer was Mohammed, table topics was Tony with technical questions, and the general evaluator was Jesse. Old business, we had none. New business, the holiday donation annual for ILM was brought up. Speechcraft, get to the point, Jonathan O. Gestures, your body speaks. David spoke about that, and the 1 minute educational speech was by William, Take and Shape.
As far as old business, we will, I think we're going to leave those two items on the table for now. And for new business, anybody have any new business to bring up? So maybe start moving along. Announcements, I would normally bring up a sheet of things, but can't. So I did. Brent has assured us that this would be the last week that this will be happening because he has very graciously volunteered to donate a much better computer, although that is a very low bar. And for thank you, Brett.
Yeah.
But does anybody have any discussion topics, Brett? Yes, Lawrence.
Mr. President, I'll bring up the issue of the donation to ILM again. We did not go into it further last week because we didn't have any people present, but I think that we should with the holidays coming up. I like the idea of the club giving a donation rather than individuals, so open it up for discussion.
All right, well, sure, I guess you can go back to old business.
Yes.
I'll bring up the old business because that is my purview. Is there any further discussion on the matter of a club donation rather than personal donation to the charity of Islands Choice? Clea?
I don't know anything about this. Can you
Right.
explain it, please?
Well, typically we have been donating to a charity of the choice of the people who are hosting us. And we brought it up, so let's do it. Great, we're all on board with that. But I said that I think that it's better that we all voluntarily donate whenever we feel, as opposed to saying the club collectively should donate a certain amount. That's basically the only point of discussion right now. But we have a lot of time as far as making that decision. So I feel that we can continue to discuss it, but I don't care to have a vote on that right now. I don't feel that we have a quorum on it.
All right, I will bring it up at a future meeting when we do have more people. I believe in doing things earlier rather than later, and sometimes we haven't made the donation to the place hosting us until well into December. And I'd say let's do it early. Let's do it right after Thanksgiving. Make the donation, do it early, get it done. They have time to channel it to the charity. The charity has time to make use of it if they have a special use with the holidays coming up.
Well, I think we're going to table that motion, and I'm going to try to take this offline so that we get more input. And as far as figuring out amounts and things like that. All right, any other announcements by anybody? So there's a call, let's see, I know there's a call for speaker content for MISC, which is Minnesota Information Security Conference. And there was the Midwest PHP one is coming up real quick. I feel like there was a new one, but I guess I'll mention that next week because we probably have plenty of time for that anyway. All right, so right now we got up to a little bit later start than usual based on the issue with the internet connection, but we are going to take a break for, it would normally be about 5 or 10 minutes, but probably won't be more than 1. So we're going to take a little break and then we'll get started at 8 o'clock for the normal Speechcraft meeting. Right.
Wow. William's gonna be on.
Yes.
Okay. Did you put tabletop or did you need to?
No, I did not. All right.
Do I have a role?
You want to do tabletop?
Yes.
You have a role. Sir.
Okay.
Okay, let's check it out. See if he has it.
I don't think you have.
You have about 30 seconds.
8 o'clock.
I got plenty, that's plenty of time. Assuming I can do things, yeah.
That's just how good you are.
I brought the term. Third day, correct?
Yes.
Oh, you mean like
No role.
Okay, 5 minutes, I reconnect to the.
You are tabletop master.
It takes forever, that's the garbage machine. We're done with
I
it.
found these questions unless you have some. I found deep questions to ask people.
Big question.
So there's 74.
Although we don't have Muhammad here today. Muhammad was
You
supposed to
could
be
send them that the entire world, what would you say? Oh, no.
Just.
I would say,
Could you please be the general guide?
love each other and be a good person.
That's what I said.
Sure. Oh,
You gotta keep going.
Okay.
Are you,
That's an old joke.
involved in the,
What's that?
oh, are you gonna?
I will go to my caucus, yes.
You are.
You know what it's called?
That's military. I don't know yet. No, I don't.
I probably will be a leader of my caucus now,
Oh,
which I think is a fun little opportunity, yeah, to get up and speak and lead the people.
Yeah.
I,
Are you gonna go against the next time round or?
Shape the fate of the nation.
oh, that's called delusions of grandeur.
Last time you were going for treasurer, right?
Of my precinct?
Yeah.
You
got up.
I had various, the precinct really isn't highly active. The main thing is getting together for the caucus. In terms of having frequent meetings or really getting people together to go out and do things, that just doesn't seem to happen. And I question how I can really volunteer and be effective, because a lot of political volunteering, you wonder if it really has any worth to it or not.
You know, if you really have, I can totally understand why you feel like there's got to be a difference.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting, and regardless of your individual personal politics, the party level organizations is an opportunity where you can be as active or inactive as you want.
Yes.
And you'll have as much effect as you put into it. You can really see the difference you're making. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in supporting individual politics. I myself, as an elector,
I appreciate what you're talking about, but I probably should give a moment of thought to what I'm going to do for tabletop.
Oh, yeah.
There's a very important concern I go by, and that is, the only networks I tap are ones I have permission to.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, you introduce me again?
All right, break's over. Hope you all got your coffee. I see Jesse snuck in back there. Welcome, Mr. Hooley. I'd like to start this segment of the meeting reintroducing Vince Bollinger.
Come on.
I know, seriously, get your act together. All right, thank you, sir. All right, so welcome back after our extremely long and restful break. I would like to introduce our guest here today, Justin Gramis. We've been in communication for quite some time. Glad to see you finally showed up. We are in the middle of something called Speechcraft. I don't know if you're paying any attention to that whatsoever, but what is happening is it's kind of like an onboarding session to TechMasters, and we have 5 people on board, but it seems like 2 people are here today as far as the actual participants. So we'll see if anybody else joins in. I'm going to introduce the timer. Today's timer is Brett. I probably don't have the information about exactly how long these speeches are, so maybe I'll just go ahead and do that for you. So we have an educational speech today that will be given by Clea, and she will receive a green marker at 4 minutes, yellow at 5, and red at 6. As far as the speeches by the participants, we're going 3 to 5 minutes again. That means 3 for the green. Yellow will get up at 4 and red at 5. And for table topics, your typical 1 to 2 minutes, and evaluations 2 to 3 minutes, but it'll be a little rough to get 3 minutes out of a shorter speech. But anyway, so we will also have an evaluation of today's speech as well, and that's going to be the same 2 to 3 minutes. Okay. All right. So table topics. So as part of Toastmasters, we're not here to just give prepared presentations. We're here to work on various different forms of public speaking. And we are not only giving prepared speeches, we're also getting evaluations right away. We're also going over timing because timing is very important. You want to make sure that you stay within the limits of whatever it is you're doing. And you want to make sure that you are keeping everybody engaged and things like that. Another very important and very interesting and fun part of the meeting is table topics. Table topics is the impromptu portion of the meeting. And today's table topic speaker is actually an impromptu table topic speaker. That will be Loris Holmberg. Loris was away from us for a long time. Glad to have him back. He worked over the summer at Yellowstone. He used his communication skills that he learned to do what he loved, which is the outdoors. I know I'm not supposed to, and in fact I harp on this quite a bit, not supposed to mention when something happens, something like if a fire were to catch up in the back cafeteria there, I would just not mention it, right? And if people come in, I don't like to mention it, but when it means a third Speechcraft participant, I say thank you for coming, John. All right, so we have 3 participants, and I feel like, you know what, let's just open it up and go ahead and ask more questions if you have them, Loris. So if you please help me welcome Loris.
Everyone is eligible.
Sure. All right. Start with John, Marie, and Chris.
Start with John.
John, Marie, and Chris.
Okay. All right, John.
Oh, sure, has to be kind of graphic. Okay.
Here's the question that I have for you. I've been pondering whether people are capable of planning for the long-term future. There's a Native American saying that you should think 7 generations ahead. It seems to me that we really don't plan long-term. The human race doesn't. What do you have to say about that?
Thank you, Tabletop Master. Hello, guests, friends. What do I think about our ability to plan for the long term? I think that it varies on a person-to-person basis. It's very difficult, I think, to generalize, to make a broad statement about everyone. It's also hard to make that statement about everyone, being that things do change over time. Look at Back to the Future, for example. We had Back to the Future Day. That was great and fun, and a lot of cultural references all over media today, or this past week or so. And we compare and contrast what they perceived as what the future would be to what the future is now. And I can't tell you all how disappointed I am, but there are no hoverboards. No, like real hoverboards anymore. So, can we plan for the future? I think we can plan on a smaller scale, say savings accounts, retirement funds, things like that. We can plan for houses, we can plan for families, we can plan for a lot of things. But when it comes to certain things, it's kind of out of our control, out of our foresight. Hoverboards were going to be part of the future, flying cars, and we don't have those right now. So, to answer your question, I think we can, but I think it depends on what we're planning for. Thank you. All right.
Thank you. Marie. At the present time, there are people immigrating to Europe from Africa and from the Middle East in very large numbers because their home countries are screwed up. And what happens with this issue? To me, it seems like it's one of these really major things that pops up in history every now and then. Where do things go from here?
Thank you, Mr. Tabletop Master. Very general. That is a very difficult question. It's one that the world has faced for centuries. The mass displacement of people People who have lost their home due to conflict and violence. This is something that has roots in areas where there has been multiple cultures clashing, different dictators, political systems that have created these crises. There's also examples of it happening over resources, scarce resources in some places of the earth. There's insufficient resources to actually support the people living there. So this is not something with an easy solution. This is something that takes a multifaceted approach, stabilizing countries, encouraging behaviors, trying to look at how to alter courses of governments and systems to make them more equitable to people. In the immediate term, relief does need to be provided to these refugees. They're coming from desperate circumstances, but there needs to be some long-term solutions, and the entire world needs to work together. No one country can actually solve these problems. It needs to be a large-scale effort, and people do need to look many years ahead, not just at the immediate crisis, but generations forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Tony, is there a place in the world for strong, harsh dictators? Because it seems like when there is a strong, harsh dictator, we'll go in and we'll knock them off in some cases, one way or another, put them out of power, and then there's chaos. So again, is there a place in the world for strong, harsh dictators?
Thank you, TechMaster, fellow TechMasters, our guests. Is there a place for dictators in this world? I would have to say absolutely. We, as you pointed out, we have a propensity to going in and knocking out these dictators. Well, some dictators. Depends on which party's in favor at which place at which time as to which dictators. Like, certain dictators are favored by one party, and other dictators are favored by the other party, and they will strive to knock down the other guy's dictator. But one of the statements that's never been, that we always forget is, nature abhors a vacuum. And where we knock down one dictator or a center of power, another will rise. Take, for instance, the crisis in the Middle East right now and with ISIS. We went in, knocked over a dictator in the form of Saddam Hussein. And what have we created? We created a huge vacuum, tons of power, and it's possible that what we've gotten is worse than what we had. You know, obviously the people suffering under that dictator are suffering, but changing the victim or the target is not always a good thing. Thank you.
Okay, Chris. I've become aware of certain countries more recently than I was a year ago, like Bosnia, Slovakia, Hungary, Romania. Why don't people go to those countries on vacation? It seems like they're not in our sphere of interest.
Thank you, Mr. Tabletop Master, fellow TechMasters, and our guests. I'm going to thank you for that question, and I'm going to take note of a theme that I'm hearing in your questions this morning. I'm going to try to pivot into a more broader view of what I'm hearing. We begin with the question of vision and looking forward. And as a nation, do we see, or as individuals, do we see them as one-moment things or in long-term perspectives? You could think of the upcoming elections as a question of this. And we heard on the question of individual security being an element of this. And I think that I'm really looking forward to seeing what we call leadership as a function of vision in our community. as individuals or as a group, we may not actually see beyond our individual moments. But there are those in any community who have a vision of the possibilities of the dangers we face and should begin to emulate a plan for it going forward. And those who see those dangers or those opportunities, which may be the same thing, see individual visions. They have a vision of what's going forward, and we look for those leaders in our elected individuals, our organizational leaders, even down to the individual level with people like Mike and Vince leading us and bringing us to things like Code Camp, which I personally very much appreciate. This morning, we're going to hear from a guest speaker, Marie Fromm, who's going to be talking about defense in depth, anticipating some of those very visions, needs, those things going forward. I'm looking forward to hearing that. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Vince? Does foreign aid work?
Thank you for the topic, Master. Yes. Does foreign aid work? No. It depends on what you define by working. What we like to think of, a lot of times people will look at what a government function is and say, it's just not working, or just we need the right guys or something. Well, really, the problem people don't understand is the reasons for enacting the particular programs or ideas or whatever it is that the politicians are selling you are complete BS. They have ulterior motives and they're just not telling you them. They tell you the things that make sense, the things that are logical, the things that aren't weird, Frank Underwood, underhanded, goofy stuff with, propping up various dictators depending upon whether or not they're playing ball with us and our particular interests, we'll put it that way. So does foreign aid work? What is the real purpose of foreign aid? We use foreign aid as a way to curry favor and bully people into doing what we want. Now, of course, what we want isn't exactly what the people in this room want. It isn't exactly what the people who if you were to ask what should we do in this various thing or how should things be run, that's not what they're doing. They have their own interests. It depends on the situation, of course, but they have their own interests and their own ideas of things, and they use foreign aid as a way to bully people into getting their way as opposed to invading them. Also, if you give money to various dictators and tyrants, it allows them to stay in power when they otherwise would have been overthrown. I'm going to touch on a couple other things, though. I wanted to mention hoverboards. We've had hoverboard technology for a long time, but you can't do that because that's stupid and kids will hurt themselves. We also have flying cars, but think that, you've seen them, the wings pop out of the car, but yeah, it's an F-89 on that one, so they're not going to let us have those. Is there a place for dictators? My wife sure thinks so. Another thing, Tony really touched on it, said that nature abhors a vacuum. And what I like to tell people when I talk about all of the things that I like to do, or I would like to see enacted in the world, like for example, getting rid of the Federal Reserve, is you can't just flip a switch. Even if the thing is the right thing to do, if you flip a switch, you will implode everything. I want to get rid of the Federal Reserve. If you turned it off today, the whole economy would collapse. So you need to ease it out, transition properly with a good philosophy, something like that. I think with that, I'll probably go ahead and cut my time because I believe I'm out of time. So
yep.
Thank you, Mr. Tabletop.
Clea. Out in that vast world known as the internet, I saw he was a fake interviewer out on the beach out in LA, and he was asking young women if they thought that Hillary Clinton's plan for implementing Sharia law for minority communities, certain minority communities, was a good idea. He was a fake interviewer because he was actually looking to sort of make fun of some of the people that were there on the beach. But these young women were saying, oh, that's what Hillary wants, which is not part of Hillary's platform. Oh, I think that's a good idea. What do you think of Sharia law?
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. That is a very interesting question, which I think plays into two parts of society. One, that people blindly follow someone. For example, some women are blindly following Hillary because she's a feminist and a female, and we should all follow her because we, after all, are the same sex. On the other hand, it speaks to the American people's belief that the propaganda that is shared across the world, the internet, is true. For example, people believe that Hillary is a communist, she's implementing Sharia law, she is out to ruin society. Whether you believe that or not, clearly by somebody bringing it up and people on the beaches of California agreeing with it or emphasizing her point, it speaks to the ignorance of the American people, unfortunately. With that being said, Sharia law, while it may work for some countries, it certainly would not function well in our society where we emphasize the rights to wear what we want, do what we want, and marry and act however we choose. So to wrap up, if I think Sharia law would work well in our society, absolutely not. Is Hillary toting Sharia law for her platform? Absolutely not. And is our society slightly doomed if that is what people believe? Absolutely. Thank you.
Brett, we're out of time. Yeah. All right. Okay, I'm gone. So, Vince.
Thank you, Laura. Let that go on a little bit longer because we have 3 participants instead of 5. Now we're on to the prepare portion of our meeting, and we have a presentation called Your Body Speaks. The order will be Jonathan, Chris, and then Marie. Now, one thing I wanted to mention, Marie, for your slides, I have it up. All you gotta do is hit. Well, in fact, I'll do it here. But all you have to do is hit. Right, and then it's not close it. I didn't close it. I didn't close the promise. I'll just pull it up again because I don't have to have you fumble around there. I'll do the fumbling around right now instead of having you have to work like that. All right, so right there. We go like this, and then all I have to do is press Alt Tab, right? Why are you here? How did you do this? Why have you forsaken me? So, again, now remember, we're going to have the person who is speaking after you speak. I want you to introduce the next person. So, Jonathan will introduce Chris, Chris will introduce Marie. And when you first go up, remember that you are to evaluate the person before you. If you care to do so, either take a sheet back by Tony or take the Speechcraft workbook from the other person, okay? So that you can properly evaluate them.
And because I'm going first, I will be evaluating.
Sure, we'll do that. All right, so the way we're going to do this here, I'm going to call up Jonathan. Jonathan's going to give a speech, and then Jonathan's going to introduce Chris. Chris will first evaluate Jonathan after he gets up here, and then he'll give a speech, and he'll call up Marie. Marie will stay up here. Chris will go sit down. Marie will evaluate Chris, and then she'll give her speech. Sound good? Yeah. And then John can evaluate from where he's sitting. Good? Great. So, with the first of Your Body Speaks here today is Jonathan. Now, Your Body Speaks is important. Not only, we've gotten kind of past the structure and outline of the presentations. We're moving more to what else do you add when you're giving a presentation. So not just the things that you're saying and how you structure it. We're going to get into how you're saying it, how you're coming across your gestures, things like that. So with our first Your Body Speaks, please help me welcome Jonathan Owen.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Morning.
Today, I'd like to talk about social dance, and I'd like to encourage you all to give it a try if you haven't already. In college, I had joined the U of M's Ballroom Dance Club because at the time I was single and I was looking for something to do, and it seemed like a good idea. And it was a great idea. One of the things that are really great about social dance are that you get to meet a lot of people. You get to stay active, and it's relatively cost effective. So here are some of the reasons why I think you would all love social dance. As I was saying, socializing. I did it because I wanted to make some friends, I wanted to meet some people. And it was a great way to do that, actually. Some of the best friends that I have these days are people that I met through the Ballroom Dance Club, and then people that I met through them in turn. It's a great way to work on your social skills, much like we come to TechMasters to learn how to present. It's not just speech, it's not presenting, it's saying hello, welcome, oh, that's a great idea, Mr. Table Topics Master, so on and so forth. We have those interactions that we learn just by attending. It's also a great place to learn things like etiquette. So introducing people properly or shaking their hands, but it's also things like making sure you're not gripping down on their hands too tight. It's very painful when the followers are doing that to me. It's rather painful. But it's also kind of awkward for some others because making sure where your hand placement is, you don't want it to be too far to the one side or the other. You want it firmly, in the back when doing things like waltz or foxtrot, where it's going to be different when it's things like swing or tango. So in addition to socializing, learning those social skills, practicing those, getting to meet new people, it keeps you active. It's not going to be weightlifting. It's not going to be a jog around the block. It's going to be continually dancing for a good 2-3 minutes at a time. And if you still have energy, great. You can grab someone else and go on the dance floor and dance with them. Or maybe you need to take a break. Regardless, it's going to be a good evening of dancing, whether it's going to be lap classes or an actual live band dance or a DJ dance. So keeping that variety as a lead, as a follower, you have to actually pay attention to what you're doing. You have to make sure that your lead is clear. You have to make sure that you're actually following the lead when dancing. So in doing so, you get to practice different patterns and make sure that you're doing that communication very well. Balance and posture are important. I think I touched on foxtrot and waltz, for example. You very much have to keep a more upright pose and make sure that you are actually moving with your body. Whereas dances like swing, you have a different kind of connection. You are using your hands to kind of create that tension and create that counterbalance so that when music's going faster, you can really lead and follow much more effectively. Cardio. Like I said, you're doing this for a number of hours. You're going to do this for a whole night, especially if you sign up for classes as well. It's going to keep you going. It's going to get your heart rate up. It's going to get you moving. It's great for staying active. Lastly, it's very cost effective. We all like having money in our pockets, right? But we want to go do things. Those don't really go hand in hand sometimes. We just want to sit at home on the couch and do nothing. So rather than spending a lot of money on activities that require a lot of equipment, you can take up dancing. The most you'll ever need are maybe a nice pair of shoes that don't have rubber on the soles. You want it to be felt or leather usually, so it can allow you to pivot more easily. Dance classes are great. You can do them one by one, one class after another, or you can buy them in bulk as kind of a number of series. Also, dances are usually no more than $5-10 for an evening of great fun, of dancing with your friends and meeting new people. In summary, I encourage you all to take up dance lessons. It's great for meeting new people, it's great for staying in shape, and it's great for not breaking them. Thank you. All right, I get to do something. Next up, I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Chris. You know him as the man with the golden pipes, but today he's not going to be showcasing that as much as he's going to be showcasing his golden gestures. He's going to be talking to us about fashion and how it affects us with our gestures. Chris.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. Thank you, fellow TechMasters and honored guests. Today, I do want to speak to you about fashion and how it influences the form which affects our functions. It is so important to discuss gestures when we speak about our language. If we were to step before you and begin speaking in a simple, straightforward manner, no matter how inflected, no matter how well nuanced without body language, you can become almost invisible. You can completely disappear from in front of your audience, or even worse, it can begin to influence your attitude and make you feel almost naked. Imagine if I were standing here before you like that. Now, let me show you my shelf that has my tools here. You can see the shelf. You can see my hats sitting on the shelf, hanging on the pegs, or my selection of jackets. Let me clothe myself. Before you, I'm going to pick up my baseball cap. I'll put it on. Let's put it back and forth because I hate wearing my hats backwards. Okay. I'll select my long trench coat from the peg and I'll take it out. We'll put it on. You can see my coat here. It's a nice gray long one. We'll be talking about it in just a minute, so keep it in mind. Excuse me for just a minute. These things never go on quite right. Trench coats are like that, so we'll button up here, and we'll all be much more comfortable now as I begin to gesture and inflect, and you can see the conversation that we're having before you. Okay, I'll tell you a few conversations about how I begin to wear hats and how I begin to wear trench coats and why the fashions we choose really make a difference in the statements that we're making. Okay, when I was a young man, before hats were popular again, no thanks to Don Draper and Mad Men, long before these things happened, I saw an article in the Seattle Times, where I was living at the time, about a chef, Tom Douglas. Tom Douglas is a chef in the Seattle area who has influenced many of those chefs that you see on television. And while he himself never made it, he is well respected in his community. And I saw an article titled "The Chef in the White Fedora," because Tom Douglas chose not to wear one of those lovely chef's hats, but instead he wore a white fedora. I found this highly intriguing, and I went down to Bernie Hutt's Hats, the only true hat shop in Seattle, and purchased a gray Stetson fedora. Let me get it off the shelf, and I'll show it to you right now. Put it back on. The fedora is noted because of its simple brim that is foldable, okay, as opposed to a baseball cap or a Stetson cowboy hat, which is a firm, fixed brim. So you can see that fedora, and it's shaping us and how we begin to influence that. And the next day I went in, I was working at a department store. Today it's a Macy's, so you can see the layout. I'm standing in the freight elevator with my gray trench coat. It was a long night. I hadn't slept well, and I'm standing there, and I'm in the trench coat. And to put this in context, it was about a week after the Columbine massacre, one of the first school incidents that ever happened, a very sad, tragic event. And I'm standing in the freight elevator like this with my trench coat and my gray, and my eyes closed, and the freight doors open, and I can hear the voice of the department vice president standing there, and she suddenly stops, and I'm waiting, and my eyes are closed because I'm really tired, and they're just standing there. And I finally said, after about seemed forever, "Are you gonna get on?" And she asks, "Are you gonna shoot us?" The image of how you dress, the perfection you want, the attitude you carry influences people's opinion of you in front of the stage, on the street, in the speaking room. A few months later, same store, same place, and I'm beginning to talk about, these things, and I'm going to step back here, and a friend I met at the department store had invited me to go hear his band. He was playing the sax. I love the saxophone. I come back downtown to Seattle. I'm wearing a gray suit. I'm wearing the gray trench coat and the gray hat. And I walk into a movie theater, and there's a long layout like this with two big elevators. And I walk in looking for a phone because I'm going to try and find the address to this place I've lost. And I'm walking in like this with big gray cap toes, and you can see me walking down the hall. And at the end is a security guy. So I walk up to him, and I stop just like this, and I ask him, "Is there a phone here?" And he looks me right in the eye and says, "Are you with the Secret Service?" And I look down, "Oh, I get it, thanks, I appreciate that, I feel good." And he asked me again, "You didn't answer my question. Are you with the Secret Service?" And he wanted to know right now. And I found out later Al Gore had been in town, and he'd been told to expect something. So he sees the gray coat, he sees the gray hat coat, he sees the gray hat, and he assumes I'm with the Secret Service. The way you act, your body language, your influences, your choices can impact these things and make a huge difference in how you are accepted in your community. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to wrap up right here, and I'm going to take just a moment here to thank you all for listening today. I appreciate your time. Our next speaker this morning will be Marie Fromm. She comes to us with 15 plus years as a security engineer. She's been a leader in the LGBT community for some time, and she's going to be speaking to us today on defense in depth and how it impacts our decisions in our vision for security. Thank you very much.
Again, I want to tab over.
Oh, okay, here it is. Hi, everyone. ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Toastmaster. I'm Marie Fromm, and today I'm going to talk about defense in depth. I'm going to not just cover it and talk about it, because oftentimes when I'm talking about defense in depth, the software engineers, they're unclear of what exactly I'm referring to. So this time, I'm actually going to show you a little bit about what defense in depth actually means. So what is defense in depth? A really great physical representation and example is Fort San Cristobal in Puerto Rico. This Puerto Rico was attacked by Europe for centuries, by the Dutch, by the British, by the Americans, unsuccessfully, I might add. Now, if you look at this hill, this is Fort San Cristobal, and look up that hill and imagine trying to take that fort. You're going to be seen for miles as an attacker. They're going to have plenty of time to get ready for you. Now, what you're not seeing is the many different walled fortifications. So what you see is just a piece of the full defenses you're actually going to face once you get there. So there's really no way to sneak up on this. The walls are constructed of overlapping segments, and this is done to create a defense in depth architectural model. If you think about this, each time an attacker manages to cross one wall, the defenders can shoot down, and they have a real easy, clear shot to take those attackers out from the next wall, and the next, and the next. So by creating these layers of walled fortifications, an attacker doesn't just cross one boundary. They have to cross many to reach their objective. And so these tiered network fortifications makes for very effective defense in depth. Now here you can see these thick walls. This provides massive fortification, one layer after another. Again, you can see that very clearly as an attacker coming over one wall, the defenders can shoot down from the wall right behind, and they've got an easy, clear shot at those attackers. There really is no way to attack a structure like this. So they had other features that were defense in depth, such as very high guard towers, gave them excellent visibility and situational awareness. If you look at the steepness of the way it was designed, there's no way to scale that. Again, another model of defense in depth. Now, there was some other features about this that were not visible to the naked eye. So inside, there was twisty passageways designed to confuse an attacker that did manage to get inside. These passages went at odd angles and intersections, and this is designed as, again, another factor of defense in depth. So here is what an attacker would see from the ocean. If you look against that huge wall and you can see those gun turrets up there, they've got a really good shot at you in the harbor. They're going to pretty much take you out. You can't really do much damage to them from sea on a moving ship, where they've got nice steady positions and they can basically blast you. Now here's another guard tower, and look at those steep walls and how difficult and how tough they built that in right into the topography. And this is really an ingenious design. Now here's a view from a gun turret. Notice the clear view straight down against you can defend with huge thick walls. Down in Old San Juan, this is a statue of Ponce de Leon, and it's got a really interesting story. So the English actually tried to invade Puerto Rico. They had 13,000 men, and it didn't go well. Puerto Rico sunk a lot of their boats. So anyway, they sent some divers down to pull back some of the cannons. They used one of the cannons to make a statue of their guy. And that's how you know you really lost, when they sunk your ships and they take your cannons and make a statue to your guy. So anyway, San Cristobal, there was some changes. After 100 years or so of peace, there was a lot of concern that it was impacting the economy, these security measures. These walls were hindering the movement of goods and services in and out of the old city. So they actually made an intentional decision to literally blow up and remove a third of the walls surrounding the city. And so just 1 year later, in 1898, the start of the Spanish-American War, American forces landed and launched an invasion of Puerto Rico. So Puerto Rico, they concentrated their defenses in the north, San Juan and Arecibo, And instead, the US military and Navy, thinking it would probably be better to go not where they're defending, went to the other side of the island. There was some skirmishes and fights that went on for several months, and then the armistice was signed, and that was the end of the Spanish-American War. And Spain ceded control of Puerto Rico at that time. It literally changed hands. So this is an important thing to consider. As we face network perimeters, the eroding, as people are saying, it's difficult for us to get business done. We've got to open up the firewalls. We've got to reduce some of these boundaries. This has a very real analogy to today when removing defenses and then alternative threat models that were not planned for now become catastrophic. So to recap, defense in depth is originally a military strategy that seeks to delay and buy time, allowing the defenders time to recover. And today's defense in depth measures help us defend networks. And remember, when you're designing a defense in depth, you have to design it for all threat models. Thank you. And I turn the floor over to Mr. Joseph.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Marie. That was great. Where were you going with that? I just didn't know. You were going on so long, I was like, maybe she's not actually going to bring up anything about ISIS. That was asking me to do away. Not all of this guys go, why does this keep happening? I don't understand. So I'm going to shoot. Oh, that's a great idea. So instead of having you guys watch me, why don't we just go ahead with the evaluations? First, we're going to start with the evaluation of Jonathan. The evaluator of Jonathan today will be Chris. Chris, could you please evaluate Jonathan while I fumble around with this? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Vince, first of all, I want to applaud you for choosing such an appropriate and opportunistic topic for this subject matter. I mean, social dance and gestures, I mean, the vista is wide open. And you came in the last minute and you stood up there and you didn't look nervous at all. So, no matter what you were feeling, you looked good. I am going to critique you just a little bit, only because your opportunities were so great. And I saw hand gestures like this, which would have been great for almost any topic, would have been perfectly satisfactory, but you're talking about dance here. And I wanted to see a little bit more, I mean, one move, and just show me a move, okay? And so I marked you down just a tad on that one. Just keep in mind, it's just topic related, nothing to do with your personal goals, okay? I really did enjoy the conversation, and I felt like I was engaged at all levels. We had good eye contact there, and so I was fun following through that, and I felt like I want to come back and hear more. So you left me hungry the way a good comedian would. You didn't necessarily make me feel fully informed. So ask yourself what question you were trying to accomplish in that, and I don't know if you were trying to inform or entertain there. You'll have to answer that question for yourself. So I'll leave you with that in terms of your evaluation, because some of this is going to be self-informed based on what you were trying to accomplish. I'll just leave you with that thought.
Thank you, Chris. And Marie, could you please give your evaluation, Chris, please?
Chris, first of all, I thought it was, sorry. Chris, I really thought you had some great examples of, because it was your body speech, you had some great examples of moving your hands and walking around. And you showed a lot of examples of both good and bad movements, which is really instructive. It helps us visualize when you stood very still and made yourself invisible. And I thought that was to illustrate that was a really good thing. You were very confident. These examples of good and bad posture, I thought, were really helpful. And I think that showing instead of just speaking is a great way to do that. Your visualization of the hats and reaching in to get coats, I could actually kind of see that happening, which was pretty cool. And you demonstrated pulling things off shelves. So it was like, I could see it in my mind's eye, these things you were doing. You made great eye contact. I thought your facial expressions and your confidence was really good. So I really liked it, and I learned some things. I thought those things on posture were very helpful, and movement, and helped illustrate to everyone aspects of both good and bad movement by demonstrating what a bad movement would look like.
And Marie, if you could remain standing while Jonathan gives you the evaluation.
Thank you, Marie, for that great speech. It was very interesting to hear the topics, especially as someone who enjoys board games, particularly a game called Puerto Rico. It's definitely tied in some of that history to the game itself. But that wasn't really the purpose of the speech. It was the gestures, and that's what I was really focusing on. One of the things that I noticed was that you were able to naturally gesture with your right hand, your free hand. You did very well with that when you were talking about walls. You could see the walls coming down, being around, or how you can talk about maybe encircling the city or around the area. So I thought those were really good and natural. One of the things I noticed was that oftentimes when speaking, you would close your eyes. And when doing that, it kind of makes me think, okay, maybe she's getting a little tired, maybe she's a little sleepy. So keep that in mind as you're presenting. One of the other things, I think it was great slides, but maybe if having slides next time, stepping to the side of the slides, because I spent a lot of time looking at the back of your head, rather than maybe your face, your gestures, things like that. The last thing that I could think of was having the notes here in your one hand. I thought that was useful, that was very good, but at the same time I noticed you looking down a lot. And you did transition that very well. You did a very good job with that. I looked at my notes too, so it's definitely was something to do, but maybe not having to look as much down at your notes. I think it was really it wasn't looking at the notes as much as it was switching to slides. So having that interaction with your left hand and then speaking behind you kind of took away from some of those gestures that you were doing very well. So overall, I think you did a great job. A few things that I just noticed with some of the gestures and having your free hand, but really, you've gone really far. You did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you for some great evaluations. Now, on top of all the prepared speeches from the participants here, we also like to have a lot of educational speeches. And if you've been noticing these last 4 weeks, and today's educational speech will be given to us by Clea, and she'll be talking about our next assignment next week. Go ahead. Please help me welcome in Clea.
Thank you. Who is validating?
Tony.
Me weave through all my chicken scratch.
Perfect.
This is part of the speech. Go for it.
This is the quiet part.
One step closer to my CC. Thank you, everyone. So this seems to be redundant because I think most of us are very good at our vocal variety. Certainly the 3 speeches we just saw were very impressive. But we all know the people who can get up in front of a room, captivate you, encourage you, you're listening to them and you don't even know what you're talking about. And then you know the people who drone on, they don't have a lot of energy, they may be repetitive. And it doesn't matter if they're talking about the most interesting thing in the world, you really don't care. So the point of this speech is to emphasize good characteristics in speaking and how to use your voice, and how to emphasize that when you are giving a presentation. So there are 4 elements to a good voice, which consist of volume, pitch, rate, and quality. Volume is pretty self-explanatory. It's how loud or how quiet you speak. With this, it also can emphasize if you speak quietly, maybe people pull in and they want to know what you're talking about. This is sort of brings the audience in. On the other hand, if you speak quietly the whole time, no one wants to listen to you because they're constantly leaning in, you're straining your ears, you lose the audience's attention. On the other hand, if you speak really loud, you may be engaging, but after a few minutes, no one's going to want to keep listening to you because you're yelling at them. So they both have elements of value, but you need to use them wisely. The second area is pitch. Pitch is the low, droning conversation that maybe, somebody says, clear eyes. We all know that commercial. Or the person who talks really high and fast and loud, but you can only listen to that for so long. So both have elements that are important when used wisely. For example, pitch. If you are low and quiet, it conveys an element of sadness, somber, something that you want your audience to feel. Whereas high pitch, maybe excitement, and people want to be engaged and hear more. However, both cannot be sustainable for a long speech. No one is going to pay attention to you. The third element is rate. So this is an area that I think people who are starting to speak, maybe speak too quickly, or they speak too slowly because they're trying to pull those ideas out. The perfect rate is anywhere between 120 to 140 words per minute. Now, I don't expect anyone to time themselves, but just keep that in mind as you are putting together a presentation. The fourth part of a good speaking voice is the quality. Now, this, I think, is the most challenging one and the most revealing of how you feel when you're speaking. Quality is how smooth your voice is, if you have any cracks in your voice, if you have any uncertainty. This is how you portray the audience, whether you are calm or nervous. So it is both the psychological and physical aspect of how speaking is for you. Another area within speaking is expressive, being expressive. So you can say the same sentence, hi, my name is Clea, which is kind of boring. Or you can say, hi, my name is Clea, and you want to know who I am and what I do, and perhaps want to engage in a conversation. So it's important when you have something that you would like to emphasize, that you say it with enthusiasm and are expressive. And the final point I'd like to make when making a speech is silence. All of you looked up and were engaged at the very second, because sometimes silence is key. If you really want to emphasize a point, don't say anything, and wait for the audience to look at you, hang on your every word, and then continue to make your point. So, in conclusion, as you're moving forward and giving your speeches, try and think of the different vocal varieties and how you want to convey your point. Thank you.
Thank you, Cleo. All right, now next up is the general evaluator. Today's impromptu general evaluator is Jesse. He's going to guide us through the evaluation portion of the meeting. First item up for bid for discussion here is to introduce the evaluator. So please help me welcome in today's general evaluator, Jesse Poole.
Thank you. As I come in with send in my mouth. So that was a really great educational speech. You obviously put a lot of research into this, and it was very interesting. And when you came up here, you were actually doing things and raising your voice and yelling and being quiet and silence, people looking up. That was really awesome seeing actual examples of that on the fly. You laid it out properly, obviously. You told us what you were going to tell us, and you told us. And then you wrapped it up. And maybe I'm doing something wrong.
Today's evaluator.
Today's evaluator. Oh, Tony. I thought I was supposed to give no problem. Sorry.
Elimination better than one.
Very good though. Definitely not.
Yeah.
He's on the fly.
All right. Thank you. Clear. Excellent speech. I think it takes a little bit of extra confidence to give a speech on vocal variety where the topic itself is vocal variety. You gave me your book, and this is something that all of us, you all got one of the, every one of us gets one of these. As you move into the normal section, bring it and use it. And so Clea asked me to evaluate her vocal variety, and there's a whole set of checklists. And I think she did really good on a lot of things. The topic selection, excellent. Yeah. What better thing to use to demonstrate vocal variety than to talk? about vocal variety. It's a great way to do it. The volume. You should demonstrate some really low things. And then, of course, you got louder at times. Very good way that you demonstrated everything. I liked your pitch. The overall quality, very pleasant and friendly. So I really, really liked what you did. I think one thing I would watch for when you get into that volume thing, I think you got that natural range that you want to be in. You might have even extended it just a smidge farther with the volume. Got really, really, really quiet. And then really, really loud to demonstrate. You know, some things like that. And pitch and the rate, you know, demonstrate. Really, really fast talking. I know some of us can't really talk have a hard time talking really, really, really fast without stumbling over our own words, my own tongue. My tongue's my enemy. But, you know, so just take on a subject like this and just extend it just a little bit more. I think you do a fantastic job, an even more fantastic job than what you did. One other thing I want to point out is I heard the words, and so in conclusion. We kind of want to try to stay away from and so. That's one of those crush words that we point out. And it's not always necessary to say in conclusion. And then to tie both of those together. Watch the cliche. Otherwise, fantastic. And thank you.
Very good evaluation. I'm glad that you actually took over. All right, so we're moving on to the timer report, and Tony, I believe, has a timer report.
Yeah, Brett sent me his report, and you're getting short, so let's just say on the speeches, John 4:20, Chris 5 minutes, okay, right on. Marie, you went a little long, it's a 3 to 5, you went 6:08. And Clea, right in the middle at 4 minutes, on a 3 to 5. Table topics, everybody was pretty much in range. Vince, you went a little bit long at 2:22. Evaluations, we're all right in that range. We're aiming for 2. Normally we would aim for 2 to 3 minutes, but with a shorter speech, it's probably okay to make the evaluation shorter. I think I brought mine in just barely under the allotted 3. So that's our time.
And we're going to move on to the table topics and just a few thoughts. I really enjoyed, obviously, Vince always has something interesting to say, but especially with comparing his wife to dictators, that was interesting. And Clea pointing out the ignorance of people being interviewed and on the on the California shores, rather. It was not even a Freudian slip there. And then I'm going to bring up Loris to give up the Wise Old Owl award.
Okay, thank you very much. The Wise Old Owl today, I'm giving it to Tony. HR records a vacuum, and I thought it was very good.
And just overall thought on the speeches and evaluations, they were really good, informative. Sounds like we're short on time, so I'm going to wrap it up right there and invite back our president.
Thank you, Jesse. Very good evaluation on top of the fact that you were able to tighten up the time frame. All right, we're going to close the meeting here in a second here. We have an assignment for next week, of course, and I'm going to pretend like I'm saying something when I'm really just coming through to look up what that assignment is. Okay, your assignment this upcoming week is to read Chapter 9 in the workbooks, and the 2 chapters were titled Vocal Variety, obviously. And on top of that, you're going to have a 3 to 5 minute speech based on the Vocal Variety project. Of course, we're going to be introducing each other again and evaluating each other again. And with that, I'm going to ask the timer for a closing thought. Today's timer was Brett. He's gone. It is now Tony. I believe. So Tony is getting a closing thought first.
Yeah, it is. All right. A closing thought. The secret of change is to focus all your energy not on fighting the old, but on building new.
That I will adjourn the meeting.
I have a quick question. So we have, we have the evaluation book and the evaluation sheets, and then for advisor, mentor, and evaluator, who gets which?
Whatever one you want.
I'll give you this regardless.